that are involved in like a romantic relationship, like a satisfying romantic relationship? Oei, oei, oei. I think I see some partners now like, raise your hand, raise your hand. Okay, some people that are involved in a romantic relationship and you wished it was actually romantic. No? I think I see the same people now. Don't raise your hand now. Any people that want, maybe in a distant future, want to be involved in a romantic relationship? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I guess you all came from for the other speakers, because this is going to be about romantic relationships. Oh, Polly. As I start, I realize it's a bit of an insult. I mean, why physicists should have the best romantic relationships, basically telling that if you're not a physicist, that your relationship is worse than mine. And you still showed up. Not only, I mean, assuming that we're not like 100% physicists here, assuming that means that you actually came here to listen not only that your relationship is worse than mine, but also to the explanation why. Well, it's going to be such a depressed crowd after this. Polly again. There's so many things that can go wrong in well, basically any kind of relationship, and since it's not a very romantic crowd, maybe I should make it just about relationships and not necessarily about romantic relationships. Okay. There's so many things that can go wrong in romantic relationships, and since I only got 15 minutes, about 15 minutes, I'll just focus on problems, conflicts that orbit around who's right and who is wrong. So I'm first going to talk a little bit about, well, why it feels so great to be right, or why it feels so awkward to be wrong. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about that you actually can be completely wrong without being aware of it. So non-intentional being wrong. And then at the end, what does physics and pantyhoses have to do with that whole thing? First, about being right. Isn't it one of the most satisfying feelings? Oh. Yes, there, good. I got really inspired for this talk by Catherine Schultz's book, Being Wrong. I strongly recommend for people that can deal with the idea that they are not right all the time. It's an amazing book. So I really got inspired by her. Now, about being right, how satisfying is someone telling you, you know what, I think you're right. Especially after a long conflict. Yeah, I was wrong. I think you're right. On a meeting with colleagues, oh, let's listen to him. I think he is right. She is right. Isn't that great? I mean, it's almost, for me, if I compare it to like a strong, I live in Arusha, like that's the coffee area, a strong, dark roasted coffee bean turned into an espresso, like especially with a fudgy, chewy brownie, or like maybe like dark chocolate together with it. No, a warm hug, like maybe your first romantic kiss. Yeah. Wrong example. Those are all physical things, all physical experiences, where being right actually has nothing to do with the physical experience. You don't digest, you don't ingest or inhale something. It's just words. It's just like waves in the air and they pass, and like that's just it. But it feels as good. Maybe it feels even better than physical experiences. I mean, that example of a kiss. A kiss from a stranger is maybe not that appealing, right? A kiss, if I just think about all my colleagues, it's not very much appealing. But any colleague can tell me, you're right, in a meeting, and I will waff. Only this morning we had to look something up on Google, my wife and me, and she was struggling finding the right. I think I'm going to sleep on the couch tonight after she. She was struggling finding the right searching term, and I looked at, and we only had 5 minutes because then we had to leave. I said, I think you're using the wrong term, and she said, oh, what would you use then? Especially on that intonation. And I said, well, try this, da, 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 da. And pressed enter, and bang, the first hit. I felt the man, which is a bit weird because like 51 years old, okay, I'm bald, but for the rest, I don't have to compensate that much for things anymore. Still, I loved my wife seeing that I'm not wrong all the time. Still, it's a huge effect for my ego. And being right is essential, especially in more competitive societies, like maybe the Western world, the part where I came from. Because if you're right, that means you made the right assessment of the situation, you made the right judgment, you took the right decision, you hired the right employee, so your corporation is flourishing. You bought the right shares at the stock market. You bought bitcoins 10 years ago and not like last week, when everyone is doing it. So it helps you forward, right? So being right actually is very essential for a successful life. Where being wrong on the other side feels humiliating. I mean, imagine the situation: you're driving, your partner is sitting next to you, he or she is navigating, you're driving, your partner says, maybe you should turn left, like the phone, Google Maps, about 100 meters, turn left. You're driving, turn left here? No, I've been here before. No, turn left, there it is. You missed it. I told you, I've been here before, we should go straight. It says here on Google Maps, you should have turned left. Who are you married to? Google Maps? I think people recognize that. Then, 3 minutes later, road completely ends in the bush. Awkward silence. U-turn. Driving back. Turn right. Lengthy silence. Being wrong feels humiliating. Right? It feels really, really bad. Where everyone, it's actually weird because every one of you would agree with the statement that it's just human to make mistakes, right? But as soon as it becomes specific, I still hear that politicians say, I am very sorry if someone got disappointed with that and that decision. Like, basically putting the responsibility to the people that got disappointed, instead of just getting the boss to say, I was wrong. And then without the, I was wrong, but just I was wrong. It's really hard to stop there. And it's already kind of in our educational system. I mean, we are thoroughly trained as students to just avoid the embarrassment of being wrong. If you don't know the answer, if you're not sure, you're definitely not gonna raise your hand, right? Or getting the right answer seems to kind of be the primary purpose of our education. And then Mel Schwartz, he stated, our educational system is rooted in the construct of being right or wrong. And I think he definitely has a point there. 6 times 4. 6 times 4. 24. Good. Remember, you were the one in primary school that wrote down 18. Fat red cross next to your answer. Wrong answer. Even worse, like in a life situation like this, you rose your hand and you said, 18, sir. You are wrong. Remember, it's like it's phrased as a disapproval of your whole identity. Not that's the wrong answer, but you are wrong. like, bang! Now, before we move to the next point, we have to quickly discuss like being wrong, being right. What is that being wrong? Well, we have to distinguish between the world outside us, that is, for me, that is you, and the world inside us, and for me, that's in my brain, and for you guys, it's just the other way around. So, I observe. I look at you, I look at how you respond, I learn, I make decisions, and that is how I kind of create a model of the reality outside me in my own brain. But it's my reality and in my brain. And it's only limited to the people that I meet, to the age where I live, to the culture where I live, and I cannot possibly study every and each phenomenon on this world. So therefore, the information on which I make my judgment will always, by definition, be limited, will be biased, always. All my ideas will be flawed, biased, incomplete. So in fact, it should be weird to be right, not to be wrong. Makes way more sense. It's a couple of weeks ago when I wrote this that my daughter, our daughter, 6 years old, Mathilde, she looked at me and she said, Dad, do you know everything about being a grown-up? Okay, she's like six years old. So I sit down next to her and I said, no, I don't know everything about being grown up. And being a teacher, it must be so horrible to have a father for a teacher. Like I start explaining her, you know, sweetheart, there's not even one single person in the world that knows everything about even one single thing. Why did I say that? 6-year-old. But okay. But she looked at me and she got the point. She said, with a big smile, that is true, Dad. Even when I'm 99, I will not know everything. 6-year-old. Amazing, right? Now, there are a couple of ways in which we can be wrong without even realizing that we're wrong. And now we are finally getting to the... Hey. Yes, this one. Richard Nisbet and Timothy Wilson. They did a quite famous experiment. They did a consumer evaluation survey on pantyhoses. Now, I told you my pantyhoses were all in the laundry, so I couldn't bring them. So here, just now for this one. So there was a big sign, and passing consumers, they could feel, they could touch, and they had to say which one is the best quality. So all the consumers, they felt and touched, and they looked at the results, and about 40%, they said the most right one, I think for you guys that's this one, 40% said that's clearly the best. 31, 17, 12, yeah, that adds up to 100. So there was a significant preference for the most right pair. But as you already might have guessed, they were all identical. There were no different pantyhoses. But all of them, they just said, yeah, this one, it's way more elastic. Or, oh, it's such a superior knit. This one is really great. All of them were identical. And now the weirdest part, when they got told that they were identical, they didn't want to believe it. They said, no, they're not identical. I clearly feel that this one is different. And they were identical. So once people construct their own ideas, it is really hard for them to change. They were not lying. They obviously felt with the whole senses and with their emotions that the most right one was the best one. There's another one, the confirmation bias. It's by Wikipedia defined as the tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms or supports one's prior beliefs or values. Still with me? It basically means you're looking for the sources that confirm what you're already thinking. Okay, but then a bit more extended. If you are voting in an election campaign, if you're supporting president candidate A, are you going to join the Facebook group of President A, or are you going to be curious what the supporters of President candidate B have to say? And are you going to join their Facebook group? Most people just stick in the safe corner. If you have a fight with your partner, not a nasty fight, just like an argument. Husbands, boyfriends, who are you gonna talk to after that fight? To your friend? Or to her friend? Or students, when you hear your parents having such a fight, again, not like really nasty, just a conflict, who is your mom gonna call afterwards? Is she gonna call her mom? I want to hear that story later. Afterwards, we'll sit together and have coffee. I really want to hear that. You know what I'm saying, right? It's clear. Well, there are many more ways. Like a human, like a testimony of an eyewitness in court is becoming way and way less valid as proof as one realizes that people just construct their own reality. They fill up the holes in the memories just by reconstruction of what makes sense. Right? If you're the owner of a green tea company and you set it up, you build like for 10 years and just like a flourishing company, and one day your partner comes to you with like, hey baby, listen to what I just read. I have this article that says that green tea actually causes cancer. That feels like a blow in your face. What? Are you such a traitor? I expected that of everyone, but not of you. You're my partner, you support to back me up, what? Or are you going to say, whoa, that's interesting. Let me read it. You can be so emotionally attached to your opinion that it's really, really hard to look around it and just, well, to look for what might be true. Now, what has physics, finally, what does physics has to do with this? I'm struggling with this. What does physics have to do with it? Well, first, Newton and Einstein. They're the main physicists, right? Well, everyone knows them, Newton, Einstein. They're so famous, but they were wrong in a couple of things. Newton was partly wrong in his theory of gravitation and of motion. Did you know that Einstein was completely wrong for his contributions to quantum mechanics? He was just wrong. But it's not like a former president that there is still a debate about who is right and who is wrong. Everyone, every physicist in the whole world knows exactly why and where Newton was wrong and where he was right. And the same for Einstein. So it's not an identification of a theory with a person anymore. That's separated. In about the third or fourth date with my wife, I told her that I saw her as a black box. Other romantic thing? No, I think, guys, don't use it as a pickup line. I don't think it's going to work. Oh, you're such a nice black box to me. No, I don't think it's going to work. But what I meant with it, in physics, a black box is a kind of metaphor that shows you that you are investigating something that you don't know at all. You don't understand it. It's different from you. You with me? It helps you to liberate you from all your biases, from your expectations, from all those kinds of things. It's something completely unknown. Electrons. It took physicists about 120 years to have the knowledge about electrons that we currently have. 120 years. Well, I assume that for the couples here, that for most of you, your partner, that you can consider him or her more complex than just one-dimensional electron, I hope. But we had to start from scratch, even from the simplest, smallest particle that we can't even see it with our naked eye. And David Gross says, a Nobel Prize winner, he said, science is based on ignorance. We start with assuming and knowing zero. We are aware that we don't know anything. And that's what I exactly meant when I said that to my wife. I said, you are different from me. I'm gonna try to disable all my projections that I have, all my expectations and everything. I want you to be the complete, total you. You're different, you're the other, and I can respect you best by not assuming that I already know how you work and by filling things in for you. when the Large Hadron Collider was started in Geneva, it was meant to find out how the Higgs particle works. The Higgs particle was a kind of a new particle. It was predicted by Peter Higgs, but it was never measured. It was never detected, I should say. So there's this amazing documentary from David Kaplan, Particle Fever, and in that there's the Italian professor Barbieri, who worked on the Higgs particle, on a model about the Higgs particle for about 30 years. And then they built the Large Hadron Collider. And then they were on the verge of knowing what exactly that particle was like. So Barbieri realized on the week before they would turn on the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, that maybe for 30 years he worked on the wrong model. I mean, being wrong for 30 years, that's quite a commitment to being wrong. It's like you have being wrong and you have being wrong for 30 years. That's like the next level of being wrong. When they started it up, everyone was looking at like the screens, because that's where the measurement would show, and that would tell them what the nature of the Higgs particle was. And people did not identify with their model anymore. They were just eager to know, what is that Higgs particle? What is the right model? What is the nature of that particle? Now, I'm not going to tell you if he was right or wrong. If you want to know, you should watch the documentary yourself, Particle Fever, David Kaplan. But no, he didn't make up excuses like, yeah, I think it still should be like this because of this and this and this. He really wanted to know. And all the scientists, like 2,000 scientists from over 100 nationalities in the world, they were sitting together watching the screens. And all together they cheered when the experiment worked and told them what the nature of that Higgs particle was. All together. Buddhist next to Muslim, next to Christian, next to Jew. Greek next to Turkish. Israeli next to Palestinian. And this Barbieri was interesting because he grew up in Cyprus. And Cyprus, his family had to run from Cyprus because of the Greek-Turkey conflict. And back then he stated that he decided to choose a field where being right or wrong did not depend on the eloquence of the speaker, but where it could be measured who's right and wrong. So the physicists, they're all the time confronted with actually if they're right is right and if they're wrong is wrong. Because you can measure it. Sometimes it takes 120 years, 30 years, but in the end you can measure it. At the end, everyone was cheering. Everyone was happy that they found out. So it was not anymore who was right or who was wrong, but what is that right? Don't fight for, I want to be right, I want to be wrong. If all those nationalities could cheer together for what they learned, I think we can do that too. I'll just give you a small little exercise, maybe together. Yeah, then I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna challenge you to at least once a day state about a specific thing, I am wrong. You are right. It's gonna make a change in your mind, small change, like it's not gonna change the whole world, but it's gonna make your relationship, I promise, it's gonna make it better. Because for you it might feel embarrassing, but your partner, your friend, is gonna respect you way more. So I would like to try that together. I'm pretty sure that there are still a couple of people in this room that have never just spoken and tasted the words, you are right, I am wrong. So let's try that together. That's funny. It's so anti-human to do that. Okay, I'm gonna count down to 3, 2, 1, and then we're gonna say together, you were right, I am wrong. Okay, shall we do that? Okay, 3, 2, 1. You were right. I was wrong. Good, sounds great. Okay, a little disclaimer. Do I really think that physicists should have the best relationships? I don't know. I think just any profession can contribute something to the quality of human relationship, and I just happen to be a physicist, so I thought I could maybe contribute that. Thank you very much.